Ready?
Okay. Okay, can everybody see my screen?
I don't see it. I see it up now.
You're able to see it?
Yes, I can see it.
Okay, okay. Good afternoon, everybody. As always, thank you for giving me an opportunity to give you an update on our public school system. And I've decided to take a different approach to my presentation because we are in the middle of a pandemic trying to educate our children. So I decided to take the approach of looking at educational equity during the COVID-19 pandemic and giving you an overview in that manner. Let me just start. As always, I like to start out by showing you our makeup of our school district. As you know, we have 6 traditional schools, 2 primary, 2 elementary, a middle, and a high. We have Georgia College Early College, which is housed on the campus of Georgia College for grades 7 through 12. We have an early learning center that supports students who are 3 and 4-year-olds. And then we have a Montessori Academy that serves students 6 weeks old, from 6-week-old babies all the way to age 5. Our College and Career Academy is now the entire high school. And then we have a Baldwin Online Academy that started 3 years ago. And then we have Baldwin Success Academy, which is our alternative education for students that have not followed our student code of conduct. We were outsourcing this service, and this year we brought it in-house. The number of employees, we currently have 701 employees. We have 4,900 students, K through 12. We still have 84% of our students at 25 for free and reduced lunch. Our graduation rate is 90%. If they stay with us for 5 years, that graduation rate is 93%. Our budget is over $46 million. And of course, we're always proud of the fact that we have 3 institutions of higher learning, Georgia College, Central Georgia Technical College, and Georgia Military College. Just want to share with you our mission, and I just highlighted a couple of words that in order to educate our students, it requires collaboration with families and community so that they can graduate college and career ready and be contributing members of our local and global communities. And our vision is to empower students to achieve their maximum potential for lifelong success. And that's what drives our work each and every day. We also have a strategic plan that we implemented last year, and it has 3 areas of focus. Of course, the first one is student achievement, the second one, school and community partnerships, and then the third focus area is recruitment and retention of high-performing staff. And under each of those 3 focus areas, we have objectives and then initiatives to meet those goals. So when we talk about equity, what are we talking about? Equity requires putting systems in place to ensure that every child has an equal chance for success. So I have a short video that really explains in a very, I think, simple way, although equity is a very big issue. They did a good job with this video, so I hope that you can hear it. So at this time, I would like to share the video with you.
Today we are talking about equity and equality. But you might be wondering, wait, aren't these the same thing? They look the same, they sound similar, so are they the same? No, in fact, they're really different concepts, even though a lot of us get the 2 confused. So let's break them down. You probably already know what we mean when we say equality. We're talking about 2 things that are the same or have a similar value. When we treat two people or two groups of people equally, we make sure that they have or get the same thing. For example, if I want to give Betty some apples, then I need to give Ben the same number of apples to treat them with equality. Along the same lines, if I want to give the nursing program a budget increase, then I need to make sure that I give the culinary arts program the same budget increase to treat them with equality. That makes sense. But that's not the same thing as equity. Equity can be defined as giving everyone what they need to be successful. In other words, it's not giving everyone the exact same thing. And here's where the difference between equity and equality really come in. Because it's important to remember that if we give everyone the exact same thing, expecting that we'll make people equal, it assumes that everyone started out in the same place. So here's an example. In this instance, we give everyone the exact same box, we treat them with equality, so that they can see over the fence. Well, that's great for the person on the left because they were already taller. But it's not so great for the person on the right who still can't see over the fence. From an equity perspective, we wouldn't want everyone to have the same size box because everyone isn't the same height to start out with. With an equity mindset, we would give everyone what they need to raise them up to the same level. Here's another example. With equality in mind, you can treat everyone the same and give them all the same bike, but that doesn't really help the person on the left who can't ride that kind of bike, or the person in the middle that is too small for that bike. So when we think about this situation with equity in mind, equity tells us that we need to give everybody a different kind of bike so they can all enjoy a bike ride. As you might guess, this is where the concept of fairness gets tricky for some folks. We often think that being fair means that everybody gets the same thing, and that's what we were taught when we were growing up. But fairness really only works when we're all the same to start out with. So this is a new idea for many of us to think about. There is this great American saying that people just need to work hard enough and pull themselves up by their own bootstraps. It's this idea that everyone can be successful if you just work hard enough. Well, that's a lot easier to do when some of us were born with longer arms to pull up those bootstraps, or maybe we were given longer bootstraps when we bought our boots. So let's think about moving away from the bootstrap idea and instead think about shoes. There is a quote by Naheed Dasani that goes, "Equality is giving everyone a shoe, but equity is giving everyone a shoe that fits."
So I wanted to share that with you because it does a good job of talking about equity and equality. And so that's what we've been focusing on during this pandemic, making sure that equity is a focus in everything that we do in our school district. And so equity requires you to understand the unique challenges and barriers faced by individual students or populations of students, and providing additional supports to help them overcome those barriers so that they can be contributing members of society. So, what have we been doing in the Baldwin County School District to ensure equity in education during COVID-19? So, when we had to close schools back on March 17, our school board had to come together and really begin to think about what we needed to do to ensure that we would be able to provide what every student needed in order to continue their education. So we call the Board of Education the governance team. So the governance team had to work collaboratively, and we do a good job of working together. Our 5 board members and myself, we make a great team, and we have a great relationship, and I'm so proud of the work that we've been able to do. So one of the things that we immediately had to do was to move our meetings virtually so we could continue to meet and conduct the business of running the school district. The board approved purchases of digital devices so that we would be able to provide devices to our students and mobile hotspots. They waived 9 board policies that would get in the way of giving me flexibility to continue to run the school. They modified the school calendar so we could end 2 weeks early. They modified the school day in the school week because we had a lot of challenges. Our parents all of a sudden became teachers. Our teachers were now teaching from home, and this was not something that we were prepared to do because we actually thought that we were going to come back in a couple of weeks. Never did we imagine that we would end school from home. So we had to modify the school day because it was creating a lot of stress, not only for our parents and our students, but also for our employees. And in the middle of all of that, we had an East Block election that we had to continue to move forward and keep at the forefront of what we were doing. And I just want to say thank you to all the voters for approving East Block. It passed with 76% approval, and we are so thankful because we continue to then focus on the capital improvements that are needed in each of our schools. In addition to that, we had to continue to figure out how do we meet the social emotional needs of our students. And you just heard about equality and equity, where there were children that didn't need food because families could provide them with meals every day. But we had children that if we didn't continue to feed them, they were going to go hungry. So we had to come together and figure out how we were going to do that. We got approval to continue our summer meals program and implement it during the school year. Normally, you're not allowed to do that. So on March 17th, we immediately began to deliver meals to our students. We started doing weekly and as every day of the week, but as the number of cases increased, in order to maintain safety, we reduced it to 2 days a week, and eventually we reduced our delivery to 1 day a week. But even though we reduced it to 1 day a week, we delivered 213,000 meals between March and May, and 186,000 meals between June 1st and July 24th. Normally during the summer, we only distribute 47,000 meals. So look at the increase during the pandemic. That's because people lost their jobs or were laid off, and a lot of people were in need. And we fed everybody, regardless of whether they attended a public school or not. And as a result, we were able to provide over 399,000 meals, close to 400,000 meals, between March 17th and July 24th. And we distributed 7 meals, 7 breakfasts, 7 lunch, for a total of 14 meals to our families in our community. In addition to that, we had the opportunity to apply for a grant and received it, and we will be able to provide fresh fruits and vegetables to our families. So we started that back in June. The Rotary Club volunteered several times in helping us to distribute the produce. We were able to distribute 8,700 boxes for a total of 217,000 pounds of produce to our community. So very appreciative of all the volunteers that helped us with this project. In addition to that, during the closure, we had to monitor the well-being of our students. So we made sure that our students were monitored by school counselors and teachers. The teachers had to call the students every week to check on them. We also make sure that we had self-care resources and that our students still had access to health care. And so we implemented telemedicine. So our families and our employees could still access the doctors and nurses through telemedicine. We implemented a flexible learning day. So we did school 4 days a week, and then on Friday was a flexible learning day to focus on mental health and social emotional needs of our students. We implemented a curriculum, which stands for Harmony for the elementary schools and Second Step. We also leveraged the expertise of our behavior specialists. We partnered with mental health providers so that students and parents and staff members that needed that support were able to access that. And we also provided weekly updates for our parents and did virtual sessions to provide strategies for our parents while they were at home. The mental health of our students, our parents, and our employees, it's a big issue. There's a lot of stress, a lot of worry during this pandemic. So providing those resources were critical to making sure that everybody maintained that well-being and were healthy. In addition to that, we also focused on our staff, so you can see that we also provided them with mental health support. We did virtual exercise classes. We implemented a weight loss program. We also had the board approve an employee assistance program, and they have mental health experts 24 hours a day. So if they needed someone, they could get on the phone and get that help they needed. It also provides free counseling sessions for the employee and their family members. So the board did a great job of approving that. We also provided regular weekly status and email and just pep talks and support for our staff, and we are continuing to do that although we're back in school. We distributed 963 Chromebooks. We also went ahead and purchased 1,100 more Chromebooks. As a result of that purchase, all of our students in K-12 have a Chromebook. We also leased 1,000 hotspots that can be checked out on an individual basis for families that do not have access to the internet. We purchased 10 mobile hotspots to put on our buses that can be parked in the community, and our 45 students at a time will be able to have access. In addition to that, we applied for a grant from the governor's office, and we got that grant, and we received another 24 hotspots that we can put on our buses. So we have a total of 34 hotspots that we can put on 34 buses that would allow families that do not have access to the internet to have access. We also purchased 9 external antennas to install outside of our schools. So just like you can go to a public library, drive into the parking lot and access the internet, parents can do that at any of our schools as well. And then we also enhanced our digital learning website. We expanded our online academy to address the need of our community. We purchased a software program in order to allow us to offer virtual learning to K-2 students. We've been offering virtual learning to students in grades 3 through 12 for the past 2 years. We currently have over 3,000 students learning from home. We gave our parents a choice whether they wanted to come in person or whether they wanted to learn from home, and over 3,000 chose to learn from home. And what I believe allowed that to happen is that every child had access to a device and every child would have access to the internet. So those students that didn't need access to the internet because their parents were able to afford the service, they were fine. That's where equity comes in. And as a result of making sure that everybody had what they needed, we were able to offer the opportunity for families that weren't comfortable with their children coming back to school because of COVID-19, they could exercise the option to have their children learn from home. And we also established our Parent University and are thinking about how we can take that bus with the technology that we have in it out into the community and still remain safe. In addition to that, in the midst of all of that, we had to approve a budget. And the state was telling us at the time that we were going to take a 14% cut to state funding, and it ended up being 10% cut, which was over $2 million for us. But we were able to move forward because we had a process in place. We used a process called zero-based budgeting that is aligned to our strategic plan and focuses on investing in our students and our employees. We also had a very healthy fund balance because our board directed me to put aside 25% of our reserves. And so as a result of that, we were able to finalize our budget and not make any cuts. So the next slide will show you that. In addition to that, we continue to apply for grants. We are all about applying for grants and getting additional resources. And those grants were to buy additional computers and hotspots. So The state did cut 10%, but because we had a healthy fund balance, we went into our fund balance and we pulled out what we needed in order to have a balanced budget. As a result of that, we did not have to increase class size. We did not have to cut any programs. We did not have to furlough any staff members. We didn't have to cut positions such as nurses, counselors, behavior specialists, etc. We were able to maintain a no growth budget, thanks to the fact that we have done a good job of managing taxpayers' dollars. In addition to that, we received money from the federal government. We received close to $2 million from the federal government, and it's called the CARES Act, and that was to help us with the additional expenses that we had as a result of COVID-19. So some of that money you see here, how we have spent that money. We also had to offer our private schools an opportunity to access these funds. And there is an application process that goes through the Georgia Department of Education. JMA decided to access the funds, and they've received over $200,000 that they can use for PPE, for digital devices, for cleaning supplies, whatever they need. They have access to those funds. And then the rest of the money is then left in the public school system to then use with our expenses. And right now we have additional expenses with custodial services, just because the cleaning you have to do to make sure that you maintain a safe and healthy learning environment. And we have a question mark because we don't know what that cost is going to be. In addition to that, we have had a successful reopening of schools. So let me show you what we have. So in order to open our schools, we did parent surveys. From the surveys, our parents said, we want a choice. We want a choice of our students either coming in person or our students learning from home. And we were able to provide that choice to our parents. As a result of the task force that I was able to form at the end of May, over 94 members of this task force came together to look at all aspects of how we could reopen schools. And you can see that it was a very diverse group of stakeholders that helped us to develop a plan to safely reopen our schools. So we held town hall meetings with our parents and community members. We allowed parents to choose how they wanted to educate their children. We put safety protocol in place. And on July 7th, we presented a plan to the board, and we opened school on August 19th. So I'm just going to click on this very quickly so I can show you. So if you go to our website, there is a tab that says Back to School. And then in that Back to School tab, we have all the information. So here we are reporting our data for how many positive cases we have in our school district. This will be published every week. We are not going to publish the data by school. We are a small community and we don't want people to start thinking, well, who is it at that school? So we are publishing the data by the district. We have gotten some feedback that people want to know how many in-person students we have. So we will be putting that right underneath this number. But this report is published every week. In addition to that, if you go to our website, you'll see information about in-person instruction, information about prevention of COVID-19, information about remote learning, and resources for parents. We try to put all the information in one place so parents can access it. And if you go here, you'll see the protocol that we have for our employees. So just want to show you, we have a protocol for what happens if an employee becomes ill, if they contract the virus. So we have a protocol that we follow. We have one for students. And in addition to that, if you want to know the protocols that we have in place, we have an infographic that shows you everything that we're doing to make sure that we have a safe and healthy environment. And so want to end it with saying that we have a very, very important job that cannot be done alone, and you as community members, as Rotarians, are a very important part of the education that we provide our children. And education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. That's what we want our students to know. And education is the most powerful force to combat the poverty that plagues our community. So with your help, we will continue to educate our students and provide them with a high quality education. So with that, I'll open it up for questions. And these are pictures of kids learning from home. So we ask parents to take pictures on the first day. And these are pictures that have been shared. And these two pictures are teachers teaching from their classrooms, teaching those students. This particular picture is of a teacher that's teaching kids that are in person, but also kids that are at home. So she's doing a hybrid model. And our teachers have done a phenomenal job. Our parents have been incredible. We require our kids to wear masks, and we have had no pushback whatsoever. Everybody has cooperated. Incredible leadership at the school level, and we could not do this job without them. So I'll conclude it there and open it up for questions. So hearing none, I'm going to exit and stop sharing the screen. Trying to see how I get back in here to do that. Since there are no questions. I know. It won't let me stop sharing. I don't know how to stop sharing from my screen. I'm sorry.